So in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the consequences of the Peloponnesian War, the fallout from this most destructive war of the Greek world, and a lot of what happens as a result of the Peloponnesian War is the participants coming to terms with how destructive this war was. On the Athenian side, the Athenians have to be not only subjected to the humiliation of losing the war, the humiliation of losing the war to Sparta at sea at Aegispotami, which is which discredits the military leadership of Athens at home. The idea that Athens could lose a war in a naval battle against Sparta is something that tears the Athenians apart. The fact that they have to be subjected to the infuriating knowledge of what Sparta had to do to win this war in selling out the Greeks in Anatolia and allying themselves with the Persians. The hated enemy of all Greeks. Only a few decades before, the Greeks had been reveling in the triumph of throwing off the Persians in the Persian invasions, and further, Athens had gone to the extra step of evicting Persia from the Greek-speaking peoples of Ionia and Caria and the other Greek-speaking peoples of Western Anatolia. This was all a matter of triumph and glory for the Greeks and for Athens, and for Sparta to have done this thing, to have won the war at all costs, even to the point of alliance with Persia, and subjecting the Greeks of Anatolia to Persian rule, was absolutely infuriating, in a way just as much as having the dominion of Spartan oligarchy imposed on them in the form of the 30 tyrants. And so Athens, after the war, is ripped to shreds, not only by what all they had endured, what all they had paid, the effects of the defeat, but the circumstances of Sparta's victory. And in a number of ways, this far from bringing the Athenians together at a time of crisis, it further breaks down the Athens that had already been broken by the Peloponnesian War. The Peloponnesian War is not a story of unity for Athens from the day that Pericles dies. Pericles delivers the funeral oration, and then within months he's dead from the plague, and after that it's all rivalries and factions and the extent of hatred that's inflicted upon Cleon, and the polarization of thought involved in the setting together of Nicias on the one hand and Alcibiades on the other. From almost the very beginning, Athens is divided by this war, and the further the war progresses, the more Athens descends into division, into conflict. They come out of the war almost fully broken by this, and the assignment of blame and the raw hatred and bitterness that people develop in terms of how they see what went wrong, and everything that's wrong in Athenian society leads to all kinds of self-immolating, self-eating, events. The most famous of these is obviously the execution of Socrates, who is targeted even during the war, as we've seen, by the clouds. After the war, even more so, because he's taking the hit for going around and challenging everything that Athenians believe in. So is a very visible sign of Athens, attacking its own past, attacking its own unity, attacking its own strength. And so he's targeted by the nobility, accused and convicted of irreligion and corruption of the youth, and executed. This is, in retrospect, of course, Socrates is revered as the founder of modern philosophy, as one of the most enlightened humans ever to walk the earth. And so this seems like a notorious and heinous thing for Athens to do. The scholars of the Greeks, cannot help but see the execution of Socrates as a sign of the dysfunction of Athens, and as the natural consequence of the arrogance of Athenian imperialism during the 5th century. The death of its most enlightened citizens at its own hands is the period at the end of everything that the Athenians do to bring themselves down in the 5th century. This is the traditional narrative involved in the death of Socrates. And there's a good deal of merit to this. It's important to bear in mind just that the death of Socrates at the time should be seen distinct from all of the symbolism that is lathered onto it after the fact. The execution of Socrates is one of a series of events that demonstrate Athens' breakdown during and after the Peloponnesian War. Meanwhile, Sparta is undergoing its own sort of crisis. The nature of the Peloponnesian War, as we'll see in the next video, changes Sparta in an unsavory way. Sparta had been more aloof. Now it is aggressive. Now it is intervening. Now it is, after the Peloponnesian War, it had to take the step of becoming an aggressive power. It had taken the mental leap to conquer at all costs in order to bring the Peloponnesian War to an end. And this changes Sparta not for the better. It becomes a terrible force in Greek affairs. This is symbolized by the ascendance of Lysander. Lysander is not one of the two kings. Sparta is supposed to be so pure in its devotion to the idea of the hoplite phalanx, to the idea of the homoioi. There should be no one in Sparta who is in any position to be a dominant influence. And so the ascendance of Lysander as a mover and shaker in military affairs and in the post-war, aftermath of becoming involved in trying to control both events at home and what's going on in the other polis, leaves the Spartans themselves nervous and unsure about what exactly had happened to them. But the preeminence of a Spartan, a dominant force is sort of one of those things that's a contradiction in terms, one of those things that, again, seems to be a karmic consequence to the extent to which Sparta had to transform itself and sell out its soul in order to bring the Peloponnesian War to a conclusion, to establish itself as the dominant force in the Greek world, no matter what. And Sparta will be paying the price for this as it attempts to control the Greek world after the Peloponnesian War. The economic damage throughout the Greek world shouldn't be underestimated. And again, this is not just in terms of the individual participants. This is not just in terms of the commerce of Athens or Corinth or anything like this. This is a world war for the Greeks. Everybody is involved, and the economy of the Greek world had been very much interlaced all of the Greek cities were involved in sort of a common economy. The polarization of the Greek world into two competing camps had only intensified this, so that especially throughout the Aegean, throughout the Athenian League, or if you want to call it the Athenian Empire, these economies had all been brought together, and so the damage that takes place in the Greek world is profound. This is not just in terms of the ability to harvest crops, to pay for, to survive, and to keep things running locally at a essentials level, but also in terms of the production of cash crops that had allowed Athens to be so strong in the international marketplace, and Corinth as well. The production of olives and grapes for use in exports falls off dramatically as a result of the damage to fields and the damage to the ability to harvest the fields that are left, and this creates a long-term problem for the Greeks, the fall off in the economy in terms of their ability to produce not just olives and grapes, but manufactured goods, textiles and ceramics and metal goods that had been part of the thriving economy of Athens and the other commercial centers. All of that drops off during the Peloponnesian War and after, and leaves a long-term economic depression, if you want to call it that. But this means that the Greek world is profoundly weak economically during the 4th century. This is a major part of the 4th century crisis, and the infighting, the squabbling, the wars of hegemony that we'll talk about in a minute only exacerbate that, make it worse, year after year. So that the weakness that the Greeks create for themselves through war is not just in terms of the direct effects of war, even more importantly in terms of the long-term economic effects, from which in some ways the Greeks take an extremely long time to recover. It's not until the Greeks have essentially had to submit to Macedon that their economy begins to recover, and that economy is now part of the larger Macedonian Empire by the time the 4th century has run its course. The loss of manpower itself has economic effects, obviously, in terms of the number of farmers that are available, the number of workers that are available to create manufactured goods. This is due to the debilitating effects of the war, particularly in Athens. The plague of Athens wipes out a third of the population. The Sicilian expedition wipes out thousands of men and hundreds of ships. And all of the other conflicts along the end of along the passage of the Peloponnesian War all the way up to Aegospotami means that that Athens and Attica are substantially reduced in population. This has social effects as well as economic. The economic effects are obvious. The social effects are also important. Families are destroyed and weakened. The use of families to glue together Athenian society, both in at the level of the common people and especially in the nobility, means that the sense of connectedness amongst the Athenians is deeply damaged. The way in which war is conducted changes during the Peloponnesian War and especially afterwards. The loss of manpower in war means that there is a much reduced ability to actually put a hoplite army into the field and to have an effective phalanx. And so the way in which the Greeks are fighting during and especially after the Peloponnesian War begins to rely more and more on the use of light infantry to support the hoplite phalanx and other kinds of contingencies, a greater use of archers and the use of mercenaries who are paid to participate is a huge financial drain, and also mercenaries are less motivated to fight than actual citizens, and so the nature and effectiveness of war changes. This also means that Sparta is the way in which war changes leaves the Spartans trapped in the past even more so than they have been. They're unprepared to fight wars in the way that wars are fought in the 4th century. This leaves the Spartans vulnerable. The disillusion that comes from all of these people having died, all these family members, leaders, the loss of the war, the humiliations involved in the war, the plague of Athens, the Sicilian expedition, the humiliation of Aegospotami, all of these things, leave the Greeks and especially the Athenians deeply wounded in their faith, not only in the gods but in each other. And this has an immense effect on the ability of the Greek world to recover from the Peloponnesian War. The Greeks, instead of being able to accomplish any kind of recovery, only break themselves down further in the 50 years after the Peloponnesian War is concluded, most especially by these struggles for hegemony that we'll be talking about in the next video, that essentially completes the breakdown and destruction of any kind of pan-Hellenism sense of unity and strength in the Greek community, and we'll see how that plays out as we go along. For now, that's that.